Hello, and welcome to Design Think US. I'm Dev Shah, and I want to thank you for rethinking America. At Design Think US, we use a product management framework to analyze political issues that Americans care about. Our goal is to inform you so you can make better decisions. Today, we'll explain how our founding fathers created the United States using a similar approach to those used to create some of your favorite products and services. It is important to remember that the government is a service provider, employed by the people. Our founding fathers understood this and established a new, people-centric government that can adapt to consistently provide the best sovereign services possible. We will explore how the Declaration of Independence clearly defines the value of government and why the existing solution didn't meet the American people's needs. Later, our founding fathers defined the services the United States government will provide, how they'll be provided, and how the people are empowered to change it in the Constitution. At DTUS, we view the Declaration of Independence as our founding fathers' pitch for a new government. Our founding fathers defined the need for government through concepts that were widely accepted. They realized this would help the world understand the American people's pain, and promote the external partnerships critical to their new venture. Thomas Jefferson explained this beautifully in a letter to fellow founding father Henry Lee. He wrote, "With respects to our rights and the acts of the British government contravening those rights, there was but one opinion on this side of the water. When forced, therefore, to resort to arms for redress, an appeal to the tribunal of the world was deemed proper for our justification. This was the object of the Declaration of Independence, not to find out new principles or new arguments never before thought of, not merely to say things which had never been said before, but to place before mankind the common sense of the subject. All its authority rests then on the harmonizing sentiments of the day, whether expressed in conversations, in letters, printed essays, or in the elementary books of public right, as Aristotle, Cicero, Locke, Sidney, etc." Basically, Thomas Jefferson explains that the Declaration of Independence made the American people's case to the world by creating a shared vision. To strengthen that vision, the Founding Fathers pulled from widely held beliefs to make it easy to understand and universally appealing. So what did our Founding Fathers say in the Declaration of Independence that makes it so powerful? On July 4th, 1776, our Founding Fathers ratified the Declaration of Independence, pitching a grand experiment, a people-centric form of government. The first paragraph poetically explains the purpose of this declaration. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. Our founding fathers then state their basic definition of government. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Our founding fathers point out that a government is nothing without the consent of the people. In exchange for the people's consent, a government secures the equal rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This simple relationship is the core of American democracy. But if you're feeling frustrated with our government, don't start a revolution just yet. The founders also explain that it's unrealistic to expect a perfect government, but the failures of the British government were too great. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. but when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. The Founding Fathers continue by listing specific examples of British oppression. The Founders also explain how their consistent efforts to address these failures were ignored. The most interesting part of this section was how the people of England ignored the people of America. Nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity. And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice. Our Founding Fathers made it clear that the goals of the British government and its most important customers, the people of England, conflicted with those of the American people. As a product manager, this is the ideal reason for a new solution, an unsatisfied user segment. In the Constitution, our Founding Fathers defined their new service provider, the United States government. On June 21, 1788, 12 years after making their declaration, our Founding Fathers formally established the United States government to provide 5 services to the people: establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for a common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty. These services are promised to ourselves and our posterity, which means long-term sustainability must be considered. The Constitution establishes the framework for America, outlining the roles, responsibilities, and limitations of the U.S. government. The Articles establish the different branches of government, outlining their responsibilities, processes, and how they're held accountable through checks and balances. The Founding Fathers ensured representation for the people, so no branch can ignore their will or rights. From a product management perspective, the amendments are the most exciting part. These are all the improvements/iterations to the government frameworks and processes, as well as America's evolving definition of liberty. There have been 27 amendments in American history, including one amendment that repeals a previous amendment. This flexibility and iteration is ingenious, similar to the flexibility that tech companies have built into their decision-making processes. Elections come up throughout the Constitution because it's the people's opportunity to change the government. Every 2 years, we have the opportunity to help America reflect our needs and values. Because every 2 years, the government reevaluates their goals and reprioritizes their efforts. If the majority's needs and values shift, we have up to 3 federal elections or 6 years before the U.S. government will fully reflect that shift. If we don't vote, there will be no change, which is why voting is one of the people's greatest rights. Voter fraud's harsh penalties are proof of how valuable the right to vote and be heard is in America. The people's lack of representation was the main reason why we created the United States. Let us know what you think and what issues you'd like us to cover in the comments. If you like what we're trying to do, please like this video and subscribe. Thank you for rethinking America. Now help make sure you define America and vote.